There's right. Is it people wanting to go to dealers? I mean, they are being sold by people that are dealers, they're selling under a dealer or something.
Right.
Legal. I don't know exactly where.
Got a sales
Other than the
license.
initial and everything, nothing has changed. And truthfully,
That is our red.
In the daily operations. He's just a silent partner. So I wanted to clarify that because all the civil matters, I guess, was going towards him. I feel that with all the corrections that that we have been doing already and will continue to do, I would ask that the board to be more lenient on the civil matters and Richard Kim's issue where this could have been a misunderstanding. He's been in business more than 25 to 30 years to understand about the inspection issues. And I would really appreciate if you guys can help us out with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Yes, Chair recognizes.
Mr. Kim, our records are showing Mr. Poslak as the owner of the dealership. We need something on our records if we want that going forward to reflect so we can contact and talk to the right people.
Okay, I will. That's what I have all of this. We're going to be going to court.
Is Lisa in the lady corner?
Yeah.
See her. Those two over there.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Mr. Mayor.
I just, I'm always appreciative of a dealer who's been in business for almost 30 years, who takes his time to come down and talk to us, let us know what's going on in his life. Obviously, we all have stuff going on from time to time. I would only suggest that we might reduce his fine. Drop $750 off of it, make it a $1,750 fine. They're going to come to the class. They're going to get re-educated. That's the only recommendation I might make is just reduce the fine. That would be a motion that I would make.
There are two motions on the table. What am I supposed to?
I think we need to vote the first one down. That's what we want to do. We need to make the motion.
All right. And if the first one passes, we don't go on to the second.
Right.
All right. So we will follow that order of operations. So the motion on the table was what William read earlier, and it's to follow the hearing officer's recommendation. Do I have a second for that motion?
I second that.
Okay, we have a second from Mr. Fisher. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So I think the ayes have it in that case. And since that motion passed, we will move past your motion.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you very much. All right.
Tab 2, William.
Yes. North Urban Motors and Ibati Ali. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence on the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning North Urban Motors and Ibati Ali for alleged violation of Virginia Code Section 46.2-1533 and 46.2-1575 number 2. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following actions will be taken against North Urban Motors and Ibati Ali. 1, assess a civil penalty of $750. 2, North Urban Motors shall be inspected by Motor Vehicle Dealer Board field representatives, and their inspection shall be satisfactory. Now, therefore, be resolved that the board mandates that Ibati Ali hereby be assessed a civil penalty of $750, and the North Urban Motors dealership shall satisfactorily pass the inspection conducted by a Motor Vehicle Dealer Board field representative on or before April 8, 2024. Therefore, be it further resolved by the board that failure to comply with the board's mandates by the required date result in suspension of all licenses and certificates issued by the board until such time the North Urban Motors dealership and Ibati Ali successfully complies with the board's mandates.
Commissioner, that is a resolution.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here to speak on this for the public? Seeing none, is there any discussion to be had? Seeing none, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Fisher. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, unanimous, Alice.
Tab 3, Elite Auto Nation.
Elite Auto Nation of Petersburg and Syed Shah. Whereas the board has reviewed and considered the facts and evidence in the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning Elite Auto Nation and Syed Shah for alleged violations of Virginia Code Section 46.2-1529, 46.2-1539, 46.2-1542B, 46.2-1548, 46.2-1550, and 46.2-1575, number 2. And whereas based on due consideration, the board believes that the following action should be taken against Elite Auto Nation and Syed Shaw. 1, assess a civil penalty of $11,000. 2, Elite Auto Nation shall be inspected by a motor vehicle dealer board field representative within 60 days, and that inspection will be satisfactory. And 3, Syed Shaw shall successfully complete the 2-day dealer operating course. Now therefore be it resolved that the board mandates that Syed Shaw hereby be assessed a civil penalty of $11,000, and the Elite Auto Nation dealership shall satisfactorily pass an inspection conducted by a motor vehicle dealer board field representative on or before March 8, 2024. And Syed Shaw shall successfully complete the dealer operating course by July 8, 2024. Therefore, be it further resolved by the board that failure to comply with the board's mandates by the required dates will result in the suspension of all licenses and certificates issued by the board until such time the Elite Auto Nation dealership and Syed Shaw successfully complies with the board's mandates.
Commissioner, this is a resolution.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the public that'd like to speak to this matter? Seeing none, is there any discussion to be had?
I have a question.
Yes.
If you're an online dealer and come up on your 30 days, you don't have the title, you can still go online and pay the fees, and they put a hold on that title.
You can legally do that. It gives you 1 year to get that title with the DMV. After 1 year, that's where it becomes.
And they were also out of time on sending the taxes in anyway, a lot of deals.
You'd be surprised how many dealers right now are not doing it on time.
And DMV started taking a more serious look at that.
They should.
All right, is there a second to the motion? Mr. Fisher, our man of the day. Mr. Fisher seconds it. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous.
Commissioner, we did not have any other topic to discuss, and we did adjourn, and our next meeting will be on March 11th.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Next up is the licensing committee. Mr. Slaughter. Mr. Fisher. Oh, yeah.
We did have one case today on licensing committee.
Yes, I know. Yes, James D. Hagan. Whereas the board's reviewed and considered the facts and evidence and the report of an informal fact-finding conference as prepared by the hearing officer concerning James Hagan for alleged violations of Virginia Code Section 46.2-1575, number 13. Whereas based on due consideration, the board believes the following actions should be taken against James Hagan. 1, allowed to apply for a salesperson's license. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the board mandates that James Hagan is hereby allowed to apply for a salesperson's license.
That is the committee's recommendation.
Motion, committee recommendations.
Okay, is Mr. Haggy still here? Do you feel like you want to say anything else to the full board? All right, thank you, sir. Any discussion to be had? All right. Yes, draw the brother.
Right there. This is
We have a second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Fisher. Next, advertising committee, staying on there with Mr. Wiley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We called our meeting to order this morning. We had a quorum. We approved our summary from the November 2023 meeting. We didn't have any old business from the floor. Under new business, we discussed the new FTC cars rule that went into effect in July. Discussed that, mentioned that the board book contains administrative violations issued by the board for advertising violations. There was no new business from the floor, and we adjourned, and our next meeting is going to be March 11th, 2024.
Thank you. I did have a question on that. Is it the responsibility of the dealer board to enforce that FTC? Or you were saying because it's federal, we don't even touch it unless it's incorporated into Virginia code?
Correct. We don't have anything to do with it short of the understanding that our proceedings may lead to enforcement actions by the FTC. Because it's public record and we find a dealer for advertising violations and whatnot, they may come across that and decide, hey, that's an easier avenue to find a dealer to find.
Does that have to be part of Virginia legislation to do that?
If,
To enforce it? The
no,
FTC?
that's a federal, it's a federal, Virginia.
So where will we ever get up?
Education.
I think that's what, see, then the class, maybe giving people a heads up on it, I thought was a good point to be made.
That's something that make, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Commissioner. So would that be something, Wayne, that you could put out like the dealer talk?
Yeah,
That's a great idea. Okay, good.
What was that?
The dealer talk would talk about the new cars rule that coming into effect in July.
I'm sure the
Actually, they
associations
have-
are doing
they
that
have
as well. Clearly, the VIDA and VADA.
EPA put out a great article on.
Yeah.
Whole thing, yeah. But it can't be broadcast enough. Especially to people that are advertising on TV. It'd be interesting to see what kind of force they put out there to go check on languages from different people, if it's verbal, and then they'll have sign language.
Mr. Basie, I thought it was an interesting point though, Mr. Wiley, as well, that if there's something in Virginia code that we end up investigating, it could trigger somebody on the federal level if they wanted to take our public records and find folks. So I'm curious as to what Virginia codes would overlap with this if we did an investigation, right, from the board's perspective.
Right, well, I mean, we have the code now that when you advertise a price for a vehicle, it has to include. It has to be the cash price and it can only exclude the dealer's processing fee and government fees. It's an issue in other states, especially with online, the proliferation of online aggregators, Car Gurus, Cars.com, places like that. A lot of dealers in other states where the regulations aren't as strict as ours, they'll advertise a cut rate price and then in either in the fine print or nowhere when the customer shows up at the dealership, suddenly there's a $19.95 reconditioning fee, there's a $4.95 administrative fee, they just have all these.
That's what Mr. Cody was saying about the dealers on the border.
Yeah, the dealers on the border, you know, our Northern Virginia dealers probably see this a lot, the dealers north of them. So in some ways it's gonna help, but that's the code that we have now. I don't think we have many violations of that code. And when we do, it's usually done not in a format that's in public. The Motor Vehicle Dealer Board notifies the dealer principal of that store, hey, you can't do this. The dealer principal says, okay, I'm not gonna do this, and they stop, and that's the end of it. And it doesn't go out in some sort of public format, so I think.
It's a very efficient process right now. The board's on it. Again, we've had mistakes, people have mistakes sometimes. And they tell us that you get it straight, and they get it.
Yeah, most of the time it seems to be a third-party advertiser that really causes the problem. They come in and they take the dealer's data and say, hey, we'll advertise for you.
And these Carvanas and Teslas, and they're not following any of our rules, never mind federal.
Mr. Commissioner, during COVID, there were Virginia dealers and also national dealers that were advertising a certain price, $40,000 for a car. Dealer, consumer would get in there to buy the car. They get in there, all of a sudden there's a $5,000 boogeyman. It's like, what's that for? And they start naming off all these little things that it's for, undisclosed to the customer. So that may be why the FTC is going as far as they have. Of course, all right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wiley. I'm gonna go to the Transaction Fund Committee, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Commissioner, we met this morning. We had a quorum. We approved minutes from the November meeting. We had two claim resolutions to bring to the full board, and one of those is tab number 6, William.
Yes, Cameron James versus Delta Motors and Austin Auto Service. Whereas pursuant to section 46.2-1527.1 of the Code of Virginia, which is known as the Motor Vehicle Transaction Recovery Fund, the board has reviewed and considered claims for payment from the fund and the recommendations of the hearing officer on the claim. And whereas based on due consideration, the recommendation of the hearing officer, the board approves and acknowledges that Cameron James' claim should be payable from the fund. Now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby approves and reaffirms the payment in the amount not to exceed $13,716.98 from the fund.
That is your motion.
That is our resolution, sir.
Is there anyone from the public who wants to speak to this? No. Any discussion? All right, is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
All right, Mr. Coley seconds. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I pronounce that name right.
Yeah.
Okay. Motion carries, Alice. All right, next up.
Next is tab number 7, William.
Catherine Carnes versus Elite Auto Sales LLC. Whereas pursuant to section 46.2-1527.1 of the Code of Virginia, which is known as the Motor Vehicle Transaction Recovery Fund, the board has reviewed and considered claims for payment from the fund and the recommendations of the hearing officer on the claims. And whereas based on due consideration and the recommendation of the hearing officer, the board approves and acknowledges that Catherine Carnes' claim should be payable from the fund. And now therefore be it resolved that the board hereby approves and reaffirms the payment in the amount of $16,776.25 to Catherine Carnes from the fund.
Is your resolution?
Yes, sir, it is.
Anyone from the public? Any discussion? Can I have a second on the motion?
Here you go.
I'm gonna give it to, well, yeah, it's your choice, dealer choice, Sullivan or Fisher. All those in favor, say aye.
I vote for Sullivan.
Any opposed? All right, motion carried. Thank you. Anything else, Mr. Chair?
No, that concluded our meeting this morning, and our next meeting will be March 11th right here in this room, sir.
All right, thank you very much. I think we're gonna move to some old business now. We have the topic of Valley View Motors and Ms. Mums. Mr. Childress, would
Yes.
you like to give us some background on that?
I'd be happy. Okay. Ms. Mom, you here? Yes. All right, Ms. Muggs appeared before the board on July 10th, 2023. And during that particular meeting, we heard her case, and the board's resolution was a $1,000 civil penalty. But that $1,000 civil penalty was waived if she had a satisfactory inspection before October 10th, 2023. Now, Ms. Mum's dealership is suspended at the moment because not have this inspection, and she did not pay the civil penalty of $1,000. So they've been suspended since October 12th, I believe. So Ms. Mullins asked to come before the board to, I guess, speak to you again about reconsider her case on the case. Now, keep in mind, the process that we have in place, the process is pretty straightforward. Once the board makes a decision, that decision is then forwarded to the respondent. In that receipt, there are timeframes to be met. One of those timeframes says if you're going to appeal it, then you have a certain amount of time to appeal it. And once you appeal it, of course, then we go to a formal hearing. If you don't appeal it, we normally just move on and take the next step. In this case, it was to aggravate the $1,000 civil penalty, which was not paid. And if that wasn't paid, we moved to the suspension process, which she is right now. I did talk to her last month, so they can offer a class. She did ask if she could come back forward and speak, and I told her she'd come back and do it.
And Mr. Childress, I just want to make sure I understand that. When it wasn't appealed, the original order said we would suspend it in lieu of a satisfactory inspection. That satisfactory inspection was not able to be completed. And that's why the fine was reimposed, right, which was part of the overall resolution that we passed. All right. Ms. Mums, would you like to? You know what was the fine originally? And Ms. Mums, do you understand what Mr. Childress said? Do you dispute any of the facts of what went on, or is
No, sir.
okay, so you'd like to provide some context for us?
Yes, I just wanted to, I guess, just go over the fact. First of all, good morning, board members. I am the owner operator and of Valley View Motors. Like you, Mr. Childress said, I was in front of the board on the 10th. And I had not been open due to medical reasons and failed to send off the notification. At that board meeting, yes, I was told I needed to, I needed to, in order to avoid the $1,000 fine, I needed to have an inspection, a satisfactory inspection, by 10/10. And that came through the official letter, from William, stating, you know, it had to be done by October 10th. Unbeknownst to me, I was continuing to do business as I normally would. I was sending off emails when I probably sent off at least 30 emails from that dealer board meeting until 11:30, November 30th. That was the first notification that I received, because I was sending off notifications that I had to change my hours due to an appointment or this or that. But I was, the board was very adamant about me doing a better job of sending notifications when my hours were to change, because I'm a one-person operation. I have been in business for almost 20 years with no violations, no customer complaints, and was kind of going through a hard time due to medical issues, and that was one of the reasons, you know, for me not being there during business hours. But I tried to follow the board's recommendation. I sent off emails if I was going to be late, if I needed to change my hours, and I have those all on file. And like I said, there was probably between the July and November, I probably had sent off between 20 to 30 of those. So I was doing exactly what the board had asked me to do. My dealer rep came to my office on 10/10, October 10th. That was the exact day of the deadline that the board had set for me to provide a satisfactory inspection. October 10th is a Tuesday, and my dealership was not open on Tuesday due to the fact it was not my regular posted hours. I then received later on, I guess from my dealer rep, that I had not been there on that day, and that she could not find that I was supposed to be closed. But if you go back to look at my original hours, my hours are Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And that has not changed, other than the fact of when I have put in special notifications by email that I would be changing my hours. Like if I had an appointment on Wednesday, I would say, okay, I'm going to be open Monday 9 to 5 instead of Wednesday 9 to 5.
Ms. Lumps, I apologize to interrupt. You stated a fact there that I want to see if we can corroborate. So Ms. Lumps stated that she had posted hours that she was not open on Tuesday, and that the field investigator visited her during hours that we would have known she was not open. Is that a true statement according to our files?
Yes and no.
Okay.
She said earlier that she's correct in the sense that since the board meeting, she has been notifying us her office hour change.
Okay.
Okay, so that's a fact. According to the field rep, she visited her several times couple times before October 10th, according to the field rep's report.
Did she have the dates and times noted
Yes.
for us?
September 26th through 24 p.m. and then again on September 27th at I didn't get a time, but on those 2 days. And then she visited on the 10th, and then she also visited on the 11th. Now, as she's saying, when she changes her hours, get the notification. And Michael Bell can verify that she did change her hours. She changed those hours. We don't get those posted in a few minutes. It's just a couple of days to those posted. So it's very likely that when she changed her hours, the field rep didn't know that because we hadn't had a chance to update the system to show her hours.
26 is a Tuesday.
Yes, sir. And I was
7th is Wednesday.
right.
I don't know what the time is, I don't know hours.
And if you will notice, in the dealer reps, on 9/26, she did visit my dealership It is a Tuesday. Again, I do not have regular hours on Tuesdays. She then visited on the 27th, which was a Wednesday. And if you notice, in her, her report, she said that she did notice the dealership had submitted a closure for 9/27. So as of then, I was still in compliance with everything that the board had recommended. The next date that she visited.
Do we have the field? Are you the field rep, ma'am? Would you be able to stand up and maybe just address us? And we're just trying to get to the facts, but it
Sure.
does sound to me like there's at least 3 of the dates that could potentially be called into question. 2 of them on a Tuesday and 1 of them there's a written closure for. The point about us not, we'll get into it in a second around how quickly and frequently you change the hours. I get it, but if the rules don't specify, rules just specify that she had to submit notice. And they don't specify the amount of time in advance that notice needs to be given. It might be inconsiderate, but legally it probably is applicable. But ma'am, what's your name for the record? Yes.
I will say if Ms. Barber went on September 26th and is looking for a proposal, that's the hour number. Did that she can change the hours that no exactly what the hours was on that day, but she did. And she every time that Barbara went, she would contact. And even on this time, I said we cannot fail her at this time because she had until October 10th to have this inspection done. She went back on October 10th and put another thing for the holiday. They're not doing the holiday, but then okay, we're gonna go again. She wasn't there on the 10th, so we tried on the 11th. We were giving her an opportunity to be there on the 11th. When she wasn't there on the 11th, that's what she did.
Do we have on the 11th, just for our, but it sounds like you're saying that she had hours posted that she was open on a Tuesday on the 26th?
If this fall.
Yeah, it says in here what, yeah, right.
She, at that time, had hours for that.
Had posted for that Tuesday
Yes.
is one of
Yeah.
the changes, so she. Do we have records?
Hours were filed with MVDP for Tuesday, November 26th, were 1
to 3.
p.m. to 8:30 p.m.
Yeah.
That's what she wrote for me.
Okay, do you recall that, Ms. Mums? Do you recall posting an open hour on that specific Tuesday?
And we're speaking of
The
which day?
26th. of September.
The 26th, when I went back to my records, so there's some conflicting things here. So I was always told that you could not change your hours permanently. Unless you, sent the form in the actual, I don't know if it's a MVD 40 maybe to change your hours. But then later on, I received, so it was my understanding when I sent in a notification for 1 week, for that particular week or that day, that did not change my hours permanently. But I then received a email, beyond that date from, Micah Bailey, who, was always the one responding to me when I would send my hours changes. And he had told me that they have no way of changing the hours, and I can pull the email up if it's something that you can't find record of, that I can not change my hours. They have no way of changing my hours each day that I change it, that holds it true to the next week. Now that's something I had never heard before. You know, I've done this for 20 years, almost 20 years. And my understanding was in order to do it permanently. So there's a little bit of a confliction on whether or not that Tuesday, under what I understood, I was still under my regular Wednesday, Thursday, Friday hours. What she what she is speaking of is prior weeks that I changed it, but I did not ask for a permanent change.
Can I ask this gentleman here? to speak?
Yes, sir.
Will you state your name for the record, please?
My name's Mike Bailey.
Yes, sir.
What I explained to her is whenever you change your hours, that's what they are going forward. So every time you send in a request to update your hours or say, I'm gonna work Monday instead of Tuesday, that's what your schedule is going. Until you send us something to change it, because we can't keep up with people just saying, well, I'm gonna make up these hours. When I don't normally work and stuff like that. We can't do that. So if you send in any hourly changes, we change your schedule.
Okay, and how many times has Ms. Mums changed her schedule in the last couple of
It
months?
was it was a lot more than I
Would
was.
you estimate per week?
I would say it was maybe once or twice every week or two. It would seem like it was not a weekly thing.
So I mean, I'm kind of see that. Let me see if this sounds accurate. There's a little confusion, but you understand it now that every time you send your hours in, it permanently changes them until you change them again.
Well, I do once I receive that email from Micah, because unbeknownst to me, and again, if you go back to what the rules and regulations say, it does not permanently change your hours until you actually send that form in.
And is that true, Mike?
It's a MVDB.
No.
It's changes, but we allow you to submit an email saying, hey, my new hours are this.
The MVDB 40 form sheet. The MVDB 40 form sheet addressing is the one they're going to be asked. Then they
Oh,
send
okay.
that and let us know that they're going to be asked.
But now you understand that every time you say, hey, look, I'm gonna be open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's what it is until you change it again.
And once I received that from Micah and he explained that to me, that's what I went by from that point on. And I would need to look at the exact date that I received that email from him, but I am pretty sure that that was after the September 26th date. According to my records, I was still on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And again, as I had said before, I have some medical issues. That's why I have to sometimes change my hours frequently.
Do you think, Ms. Mums, I apologize, now, do you changes in hours to continue the
No.
frequency of?
No, I am, no, absolutely not. No, that's one thing.
No, so you must be having a good day.
But I am doing tremendous
All right.
work with my medical issues
Oh yeah, just watching a board meeting.
now of having a regular life.
Oh no, you ain't bothering me. I'm just watching the one in Richmond, watching the woman throw one of our field reps all the way under the bus.
For the board today, right,
The dealer throwing one of
we should
the
address just a
reps under the bus. That's all.
did attend, as William had said, I did attend in December the VIADA dealer operators class. That was a choice of mine. And so I did speak to him, in that class. And I did let him know what was going on, that I was not made aware.
Him being, just for the record, Mr. Childress.
I'm sorry, yes, Mr. Childress. I did let him know that I was not aware that I was suspended until I had sent a change of hours to Mr. Bailey. I received this was on November 30th, and his response to me was, your dealership is currently suspended. I let Mr. Childress know that was rather shock to me, and because I had not received any notification. The last thing that I had heard was from the field rep. She had a hearing requested on the bottom of her inspection paper, and I was waiting to get a notification of a hearing. When I spoke with Mr. Childress, I verified with him something of that significance. If I am being suspended as a dealer, I would assume I should have received a certified letter.
So let me pause you there and just ask, now, one thing did we send a notification of suspension? Was that, do we have in our records that was sent out? Do we know what date that was sent out?
We can probably find out real quick.
Okay, but your
Well-
contention is you never
Not-
received it.
Only that, but we sent an email on.
Okay, and your contention is you never received.
I
an
never
email?
received a certified letter of,
I'm
no,
not sure if it was certified, but
Right.
we can see if it was a certified letter, so we.
of
can
the
verify
suspension.
Of the suspension.
No.
Where else?
We received certified green card for the decision.
For the decision notice, got it.
Did receive that.
And then on the suspension notification, it was an email.
Did not bounce back. None of her emails bounced back.
Yeah, I have not opened any email regarding a suspension. I did speak with Mr. Childress about that, and my concern for that is that an email sometimes can be sent to spam and you not get that notification. So when it is, and it would not bounce back. So, you know, I like,
We can, I don't mean. to
yeah,
keep-
I definitely think that it should have been a certified notification if it's something as serious.
No,
No.
no, but what I'll say is this, we can look at our procedures around notifications of suspension. I think that's a valid point and something we'll take seriously. In the notice you originally received after our last hearing on this in July or so, it did state you had to complete a satisfactory inspection by 10/10, correct?
By 10/10.
And had you, to your best of your knowledge, completed a satisfactory inspection by 10/10?
No,
Okay,
because
so then what else did that letter say in it? Did it make notice that if satisfactory inspection was not completed by 10/10, some other action would be taken?
$1,000 civil penalty.
And did it mention a suspension?
yes,
Yes.
All right, so you were on notice at the very least that if you had not completed an inspection by 10/10, you would face suspension and a fine
correct.
based on the letter you do.
By, yes, by
acknowledge
November
receipt.
30th, yes.
Okay.
But in my defense.
Yeah.
I am not able to provide a satisfactory inspection if my dealer rep does not come during my business hours.
We're gonna deal with that in a second here, but,
Okay.
I'm gonna toss something out there for people to, the board. Mind if I do that?
Yes, sir.
It does appear that there's confusion over the dates and times and her understanding of when she was open and when we were open. There's some responsibility there, right? Changing it 1 or 2 times a week creates a lot of confusion for people. I don't think we're trying to harass, we're trying to go and do an inspection on you. Would the board consider the motion that we extend an inspection deadline for a brief period of time? It's just reinstate what we did before. We will pause the fine upon a successful, satisfactory inspection by a period of our choosing, whatever date we want to stick in there. Acknowledging that there's culpability on her side for changing hours back and forth and misunderstandings, but also on our side, sounds like there was a little bit of confusion. Do we want to revert and go back to that? Now let's discuss that. I don't know.
What's the consequences if this happens again?
I think the consequences are going to remain the same, but
Yeah.
I don't
And
really
that-
want to come back here and have
right.
this conversation.
And
a
that's,
second
and
time.
that's what I wanted to
Or-
ask of the
I
board.
think she should get the benefit of the doubt.
I gotta tell you all, and just because I do pay attention, and she sat in my class for 2 days, this is not the same lady that came over to Box of Pills the first time.
I can tell you the same thing.
She's undergone, and after spending 2 days with her, it's not a person, this is just my observance. She's undergone what most of us would throw in the towel. She's gone through a lot of emotional stuff, a lot of mental, medical stuff. And I think we hand her the olive branch here. We say, this is the last time we're gonna do this, get a good inspection done, or we're done. We're doing this.
I would add to that, I think to say, first of all, I think we do need to send certified letter if someone's gonna be terminated.
Yeah, we can look at the separate motion, separate discussion. We'll take that back.
Second of all, what was the total fine?
It was 1,000, yes.
I'd have her share, and some of it is confusion, maybe 250, maybe 500. But on her termination, I agree completely. Give her a time certain, February 15th for an inspection, or whatever it is, make sure the date's right, and if she passes that, the rest is fine.
Mr. Sullivan.
Yeah, I have a question. I'm just have clarification. So do we understand the difference between emailing change of hours or changing a day that you won't be there, sending notice that we close that day? I'm not clear on this. I mean, has she been changing her hours each time, or the time that she's in business? Because she said she don't think that is the case, that her hours never changed. It was always Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I'm really confused about that.
So the rep cleared it up. Once someone changes hours.
But did you change your hours, or did you send in notice that you were going to be closed that day?
Well, I
Because
did.
we can send in a notice if something's come up and we can't be there that day, correct?
Yes, Lisa said the 1040 is for
Right.
changing, if you're not gonna be there for a certain time.
Yeah.
He said all is it? Taylor, close.
Only in car sales.
Only at used car sales. Whatever. You said if she changes her hours from then on, we assume.
Well, it doesn't have to be on the 10. Anybody can send.
You can just
call it that says, hey, I'm changing my hours.
This is confusing. This whole thing's confusing.
I think we should try to make up hours. She was saying like, I'm not gonna do it on Monday, but I'll be able to do this hour. And we don't allow that substitution of days in between the week. So if you go ahead and change your schedule.
Well, clearly up to this point, maybe after, it is confusing.
Yeah.
Clearly, the reps have done a phenomenal job trying to dot the i's and cross the t's. I think you guys have done a great job. And I think your recommendation in general, other than the fine, if we want to do something with that, is the way to go.
So for the record,
Children
what,
is gonna say something about the certified. money.
what are your hours of operation now?
It is, Wednesday, 9 to 3. Let me just make sure I'm telling you correctly. Thursday, 9:30 to 3:30, then 3:30 to 6. And the same on Friday, 9:30 to 3, and then I return at 3:30 and work until 6.
So if we decide to give you an olive branch,
Yes,
those are your hours of operation. And if we show up on any of those days and you're not open, and we've not received an email from you at least a day in advance that you're not going to be open, we can assume you failed the test.
Okay.
Fair?
So the only thing that I ask about that is the day in advance, just that's
Well,
what,
how much in advance would you like to tell us?
well, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be held to a different standard than what the, code book says. And that's part of to me, the misunderstanding is that there is no, you have to let us know in advance. And I also question if that was a fact, because if you're sick, you can't let someone know in advance.
Well, I mean, you can send the email in that day to, I'm not gonna be there.
Yeah, just send it that day before your hours of operation, and we're going to show up sometime after that hours of operation. If we haven't gotten an email, you failed.
Yeah.
Is it against policy for us just to schedule a time? Have her be there? We just do that.
Well, that goes against-
We just do
Well,
that.
no,
Ms.
she
Magnuson,
It defeats the purpose if you're doing something different. We know what we're doing. We'll reinspect.
Quality inspection is.
that's right.
Yeah, that's the whole point of this particular inspection was.
The reason she got the fine is because she was here.
So to schedule it in advance. Well, listen, you said you didn't expect change, to Mr. Cody's point, you're not expecting to change your hours as frequently going forward. You can't predict the future, right? But
Right.
do you believe those hours to be your hours?
I probably change them to a more permanent where I will probably be there 4 days instead of the 3 days. I have to pick my son up from school, so that's why my hours go from 3 to 3:30. I close at 3 to pick him up, come back at 3:30 to 6. Now, even though I know they're not posted, I will assure you that I can show, because I do also run a secondary business through there, and I can show proof to the board that I am there. I am there more than 20 hours a week. I know for the board, I am to be there during those posted hours. Totally understand that. But my understanding for the posted hours and the 20 hours that are required to have your dealer's license, it is so you're there for the customers. So that's what was explained to me. So we can be there open for our customers.
Correct.
And I will assure you, I have never, in almost 20 years, I have never had a customer complaint, anything like that come through to the board. I've not had violations. I've had all satisfactory inspections up until this past year when this situation first occurred. And, I am there a lot more hours. Like I can actually document hours that I was physically there and attending to my other business. So I am there for my customers. Absolutely. But again, with the board's recommendation, my hours were changing. I was just trying to do exactly what the board asked me to do.
So let's do this then. Take what Mr. Cody said. We're gonna waive the motion. The table is gonna be that we waive the fee. not gonna go down the road of how much, because if it's an olive branch, I'm not gonna hit you in the head with it. So it's just an olive branch. We will pause the fee, waive this fee, and give you one more chance to complete this hours of operation inspection. You can notify us of a change the day of, but I would strongly advise you to do it the day before. They're just trying to get out there, do the job. And it is a little bit disrespectful, right? They've got a schedule, they get in their car, they go to drive out there, and then they find out when you're not open after the fact that they didn't have to drive out there to begin with, because at 8:05, you sent a note saying, by the way, I've decided to change
Right,
my hours.
and in my
So-
defense, I didn't know that the field rep did not get that notification immediately. There's no way for me to have known that. I thought once I sent it in.
It goes through, a process
Yeah,
like
I
everything
didn't, I
else.
didn't know, so I wasn't in any way trying to
You-
be
you
disrespectful.
You could email the board and your field rep at the same time.
Okay,
You can do that.
that would take care of it very easily, yes.
So that's the motion on the table, waive the fee, complete satisfactory inspection. What date do we want to say?
I would like it to be within 2 weeks, if I could please just get back to my normal life and know I'm a dealer that is not, yeah.
Yeah, so Mr. Childress, what can you do with?
No, my first question I have is you're saying waive the fee before satisfactory inspection, council.
So you're not saying waive
We
the
just-
fee, you're saying postpone the fee?
She is.
Suspending it, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, help me use the right word, suspend the fee until we see this inspection.
Okay, so right now she's suspended. She's been suspended since October. But, I make one she would.
May I also ask, is it possible if you all do approve this recommendation, is it possible to rescind that suspension so it doesn't appear that I have had a suspension, only because that is a very much a pride thing for me, being in this business, and I've tried with, like I said, I've always had satisfactory inspections.
If somebody wants to entertain that motion, we could do it separately. I'm not
Oh.
too keen on it, to be honest
Oh,
with you,
okay.
because that might be your part of the responsibility here. I mean,
Okay,
changes.
that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't, the thing that I'm concerned about is I did not know that I was suspended. So I have sold a car, I have sold vehicles, prior to that 11:30 notification from Mr. Bailey. I did not know that I was suspended, and I did sell vehicles under Valley View Motors. So that's why I'm concerned about the suspension being there with me
We're
being unaware of it.
Okay, so we will just not come back on you on that topic.
Okay,
What I would say is the motion is to lift the suspension temporarily, suspend the $1,000 fine pending a completion of an inspection. And I'm not gonna tie our people to a 2-week window.
Okay.
It's too quick, but I would say what, 30 days?
February 16th, Friday. 3 days.
Exactly.
Yeah, so by February 16th, we will come out there to attempt to complete an inspection, and understand the purpose of this is to actually see if they're during the posted hours. So I would say help us out by not changing the hours at all, man.
can I verify with, I'm sorry, I forgot your name. Yeah, can I verify with what you have on record right now, just so that we all are on the same page?
Right now, we have on record, Wednesday, 9 to 12:30. Thursday, 8:30 to 11:00. Friday, 8:30 to 3. Saturday, 9 to 5.
I would say take the next 2 days and figure out the hours you want to work, Ms. Mums, because
Yes.
that's different from what you told us here. So that's where
And
this
again, that was,
confusion
yes,
starts.
that was going back to what is on my original application for that year.
Okay.
So,
You work, oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Please remember, when you change your hours with them, it has to change on your website, it has to change on your notice on your door. So make sure
yeah,
all
I
that.
don't have a website, so
Well, then
I do
the
change it
hours
on
on
the,
the
I do
door.
change it on the door, yes.
I'll make sure all that stuff adds.
Yes, and I will take into consideration, instead of just sending it to the board now, I will CC the field rep. So that way she has it immediately.
If your hours are written on a dry erase board, you might be changing them too often. So consider.
It's a post-it note.
Okay. All right, so the motion has been made. Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Opposed. Would you like to make any comment for the record, Mr. Robinson?
No, I'll just say that, yeah, I was okay with the olive branch, but the hours keep changing and we can't get consistent. Like there's a loophole, like I want to come on this day. Well, I might be closed that day. So I just say that, it's just tough. We have to live by the rules, and regulations, but we can't get a day where she's gonna be there for us to come do an inspection. So we just can't put on it. We can't say I'm gonna be open on Friday the 16th. Why can't we just make it that day? And then we have to we're gonna call it that day and say I'm not gonna be there. So it's just, to me, I was okay with the start with it, but can't say, come to my store, I'll be there on Friday or Saturday, or I'll be closed. So I think it's the same thing again. There's no discussion. Just
Can you
Mr.
honor
Rob-
your hours that she has posted throughout the rest of the year?
No, she's already said she's gonna change her hours to stable hours. Mr. Robinson, I understand what you're saying. Dealing with many small dealers in the state of Virginia, I'm talking about little like one-stop town mom and pop shops. There's one person that does everything. And so when they get sick or something weird happens in her scenario there, she's the one person that does everything. So it's a little bit harder and I can understand where you're coming from, but I do appreciate the fact that we're willing to extend the olive branch, but I can tell you the olive branch, we just handed you the last piece that there is. Right?
Sir.
And I think it's noted for the record, and I think you can see the tenor of the board is kind of changing because it's the second time we've seen you last 6 months. So let's not make it a third time. Be blessed. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
And may I
Sure, ma'am.
please add, I did attend the VIADA dealer operators class in December. And I do just want to I want to take the time to give them praise. Tommy and Chris did a amazing job. I've been in the car business for 30 years. I've had my own license for almost 20. And I can tell you that no recertification class that I have ever taken hit on everything that they notified us of. Things that were way back that I thought I knew everything, because I do try to dot my I's and cross my T's with all of my paperwork. They made me aware of things from 20 years ago that I had no idea. I was flabbergasted because they're not being made known on the recertification test. So I hated to spend the money, but it was well worth it because the class was very informative. And I did just want to take the time to let you guys know, the board, that they're doing an amazing job at the VIADA, the dealer operators class. So
Thank you.
I was very impressed by it and pretty shocked that I didn't know as much as I thought I did. So,
Thanks.
but that's all I wanted to say. So
Appreciate that. That's very good. Mr. Mayor, thank you for organizing that. Mr. Childers, you wanted to add?
Yes, this is for the board members that you're aware of. A few years ago, and Mr. Cody was part of this, you might not remember. But we ran into a situation where we had people come before the board who had deadlines to meet the inspection requirements, who were unable to do so by the deadline. So this is a reminder to the board, and the board has several new members on since we did this. Part of our process is to come out there before your deadline in case you don't pass the inspection. That way you get at least 2 cracks. If you don't pass it the first time, we come back a second time for the deadline so that you can pass the inspection. And even better, if you fail part of the inspection, when we come back the second time, we don't look at that part. We don't look at the part you passed. We come back and look at the only part that you failed. So we put this in place because a couple years ago, we had a couple of dealerships coming in here. The prior process, the dealer called us, scheduled the appointment. We were not to do the inspection. They failed the inspection, and it was past their date at that time. So we put this process in place so that we would visit them at least 2 or 3 times if necessary before the deadline to give them an opportunity to pass, to be successful. So we want them to be successful. We're working with them to be successful. So I want to remind the board, that's our process. It's been in place for 3 years now.
It's more than fair.
That's very fair.
Yeah.
thank you all. Have a
Thank-
blessed evening.
Thank you. With that, Mr. Childress, I think next up is the dealer portal update.
Dealer portal, I won't take long on this because not much changed from the last time we talked. Last time I spoke to you about the dealer portal, I informed you that we were working very closely with the vendor and with the DMV IT folks on the vehicle side. And we're working on, I guess, connectivity and connection points. As I told you last time, the DMV still on the mainframe for year or two going down the road. And when we configured it, when we set this system up, we did not have the mainframe in mind. It wasn't supposed to be there. It's there now. We're working with the MV people and the vendor to make sure that all the points we connect are valid. We also do it for security purposes. There's a lot of security involved with the different touch points we have. We've made a lot of progress since then. Over the holidays, we had meetings and we have meetings going forward, but we are at still the point. We're talking DMV and the vendor to make sure that all our points match up and everything works according to the requirements of VITA, requirements of DMV security, and other things that we so we're still talking and working through until the points.
Excellent. Any comments, questions?
Do we have any idea on dates for
Production
moving forward, beta test?
The only thing that we're doing, and actually Joseph back here, Tilar, is our new IT person. He's been one that's been doing a lot of talking with the vendor and DMV IT people. We're going through a functionality UAT within the office. So we are at least doing that internally. This is a functionality UAT. That's not a, I guess, full scale UAT. We just trying to get familiar with the system and make sure things work that's supposed to be working. The vendor will tell you if they were here, that they hope it would be up and operational in the next couple of months. I'm a little cautious about saying that because I know I'm familiar with all of some of the sticking points that can cause an issue. So I'm hoping by the next meeting I can give you a for to roll out deadline.
Joseph, do you know does he know Rosie?
Yes.
You know, okay.
Yeah, Tana, yes.
Good. All right. As long as, because I think, you know, that was
Yes.
a note I sent you, the UAT
Yeah.
within the DMV and MDK.
Yes. Yes.
Wonderful person. One of our best people. Salesperson test in different languages.
Okay, I will leave this and discuss it. Last board meeting we had, this came up, this was presented by Mr. Bannister. We brought to the board's attention that he feels that we should consider looking at having the salesperson test in another language. And this situation was Spanish, I was just asked. During that type of meeting, there's a lot of conversation on both sides of this issue. Very good information. And Mr. Chairman, you left that discussion with the fact that you asked the trade association to go back and poll their association to see if there's any interest or any issues for them in terms of offering the salesperson language, salesperson testing in different language. And before we go any further, during that discussion, the question was asked about the cost of the test. And I erroneously made the comment it was $13,000 for a test. That wasn't correct. The salesperson test in Spanish for text only is approximately $1,700, $1,700, or about $13.20 per question. That holds true for any test. We won't convert it into a different language for the most part. I think there was a couple of languages. I think Farsi might have been a little bit more expensive, but it still wasn't more than it still wasn't more, I think, than $2,000 per test.
That seems reasonable.
Yeah, that's what it was. So.
Well, how about the man?
Well, that's
More so on.
That's what we're going to hear from the, yeah, or I don't know if you've got the summary or they're going to give it.
I don't have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that the next business item is updates from them. Is that part of? No. All right. So we need to, I think the demand question is the one I'm curious about is like, Mr. Bannister had an example of where it would be helpful to have the test in Spanish. And I think, and I'm looking over at Alvin, you know, I think what we need to hear from you guys, and I don't know, it sounds like you may not be prepared today to tell us, but from your membership's perspective, would it be beneficial if we had a salesperson test in a different language? And if so, what language? I'm assuming there's a couple big ones, Farsi and Spanish are the two. From a state perspective, if you're not able to speak on it today, I'd say that you are okay. And maybe you could step up and talk to us for a minute about that, because I think this is going to get to Mr. Sullivan's question. Is there a demand out there for it if we spend $2,000 to share this down?
For the record, my name is Alvin Melendez, Executive Director of the Virginia Independent Auto Dealers Association. I do want to make a quick statement. When Ms. Mounts was here, she was directing to the VIADA two-day course, and it's not a course, it's the Motor Vehicle Dealer Board two-day course. We just teach it. So just want to make that for the record. So this question came to me about the salesman's test in Spanish. The problem I have with that is that compliancy in our dealership, whether it is independent or franchise, we have to, there's so much more for a salesperson that has to know that every process has to be in English. If you happen to change to Spanish, you have to change all your processes to Spanish as well. I mean, for me, to do business in the Commonwealth of Virginia as a salesperson, you have to be fully bilingual. For you to have to take a test in a certain language, to me, it's totally unnecessary. I mean, in order for you to deal with the consumers here in Virginia and comply with the law and be transparent, you have to be able to speak English, your own language. I don't think that this is necessary for us to teach these courses in the different languages. It's just so much laws and so much compliancy that we just open in Pandora's box when we make these tests in different languages. That's my opinion as, being involved with this Motor Vehicle Dealer Board for over 20 years and, running car dealerships. I mean, it's just, I wouldn't want to hire someone that doesn't speak the language correctly.
That would also, be bills of sale,
Correct.
and all the paperwork is involved.
So when you have somebody that speaks Spanish that buys a car from your dealership and you present them an English contract and they don't understand what they're signing, I mean, you're not doing them any justice. And we have Spanish contracts, customers that come in and buy cars from us. So I don't agree.
To advertise in Spanish, you have to have an FTC sticker also in Spanish.
So there's a lot of independent car dealers that have the Spanish version of a car dealership, and they have I don't want to say examples because I don't want to put somebody under the microscope, but there's a lot of car dealers that have division in Spanish. So everything's in Spanish, salespeople speak Spanish, everything is done right, but those people are fully bilingual. They have to understand. They have to be fully bilingual. If you want to set up your dealership like that, that's fine, but they got to be bilingual. The fact, why would you want to make our test in Spanish? I mean, or in Farsi or in any other language. I mean, I just don't understand the reason for that. The fact that I'm fully bilingual, right? I speak English and Spanish. When I took my tests, I mean, I started in the car business back in 1986, and I was fully bilingual. When I go in to speak to someone and you ask me to speak in Spanish, I mean, I have to make sure that now with all the transparency laws that the contracts are in Spanish, I can't translate for the customer just because I'm Latino. I just can't. They have to bring a family member to translate for them because it's a he said, she said. So I can't legally translate for a consumer unless I conduct every single transaction in that language.
And I can appreciate that. I'm not bilingual. I speak one language. I do that very well. But I think we're kidding ourselves if we don't think that we see where our country's going. And I'm with you. I mean, I think that everybody should. If you come to the United States, you should assimilate. You should be able to speak English. But not everybody has that ability. And I don't think I'll ever learn another language. And I know that could be a problem in certain situations, but I just think that we're missing it that in 19 whatever when you started, I started the car business in 1992 was totally different from 2024. And everybody, yes, they set up their dealership a little bit different, but I have some people that speak somewhat bilingual, but their primary language is English. And if they feel more comfortable in being able to take that test in Spanish, I mean, I think that you should afford them that opportunity. And I may be the minority, and that's okay. But I think that if we really want people to understand what they're learning, and it's in their native language, and it doesn't cost that much money to do it, I don't see a negative of that.
All right, let's take this another step. Let's say, for example, that this salesperson that you have in Spanish now, he has to be fully licensed to sell your brand. He has to get all the he has to go through all the processes in order to get licensed to sell, let's say, put a brand out there, let's say Subaru. So he has to know, he's got to go through all the Subaru trainings in English because I don't have it in Spanish. So all the Subaru trainings, he's got to go through all of that. Is he going to be, who's going to, are you helping him pass those tests? Who's helping him in order for him to be able to pass all his certifications in order to be able to sell his brand?
Well, that may be where it is in the state of Virginia and the Commonwealth, but it's not there on our southern states. They have multiple different languages, and then if you just want to stay with English, that's fine. I mean, but I'm just telling you, this is an anomaly up here. If you think that we're not going to have 50% of our population is going to be speaking Spanish, and then if we don't, I mean, we can just forget it and say, well, you have to speak English, or otherwise you can't sell a car here at the store. I mean, that's okay. That's everybody has their where they want to do their business.
Dan, I'm not disagreeing with you. My wife is Latina. I have many Latino speaking customers over for me. The first customers come into mind, the people need to be versed in English and in Spanish. They can translate that. I want them to understand my policies, my procedures in English first. So because I'm the one who's accountable to the board. If I can't get that across to them because of my English or Spanish barrier, it could be problematic. So I understand where you're coming from. I just don't think there's enough of a problem out there. Alvin would know because he's plugged into the Latino community in Virginia. He would know if there was a problem out there. He's telling us.
He knows everyone. I mean, just because I'm black doesn't mean I know all the all I'm saying is that if you guys don't agree, that's fine. I'm just saying that there are people out there who experience personally. Maybe it's my own experience, but now that I have stores in different parts of the state and in a different state, I see there's a need for it. And there's the Latina community. Not everybody will be as up to speed with English they need to be able to take a test that would help them understand our laws. And they were saying that, well, you have to learn English 100% to be able to understand everything you're saying in English. I just don't think that's.
I think there's a pretty simple modification here. I go to Paris and Africa a lot, and Google Translate will take any document. So a study test, you can just translate it for nothing. You don't have to pay $2,000 a copy. I don't think this division and our board should pay for that. I think it's simple enough. You can do it at your dealership. You can do whatever you want. Just take it, copy it, and translate it into 25 different languages. Back from Teddy Roosevelt that said, we love immigration, but if you come here, learn our language, our laws, and love our flag. And I think that's exactly what we should do. Otherwise,
The challenge with that though is that it's not the official test. So the official test is I'm assuming the psychometrician is actually written the damn thing, but I don't know. It's got a specific structure.
right, but it'll certainly be a modification. It will certainly be a leg up versus someone that knows Spanish perfectly and English.
Well, it's not $2,000 every time someone takes the test. It's $2,000 to offer the test forever in Spanish, right? I mean, so like the monetary part doesn't seem like a huge deal at this point. And this discussion.
Once you open the door, then how are we gonna do every
I'm gonna make a motion to table indefinitely this topic until we can look at it a little bit more. And we might want to do a study or something, but at the moment,
I want to be robbed of it.
is there a second to that motion?
I'm a second.
Yes,
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Note one opposition, Mr. Bannister. Thank you, Albert. And I really didn't give you a chance to speak. Did you have anything else to add to that?
We would just be glad to gather information from our dealers like Mr. Bannister as to whether that test needs to be offered. Just out of curiosity, I don't know the answer to this. Does DMV provide the driving test in other languages?
About 20 of them. Yeah, that's fun. Yeah. And we provide we have a translation road test version. Yeah, so we'll table it and then we'll figure out where to go.
And is there any exposure as far as contracts that Hispanic folks may sign in English and come back later and say, well, I didn't understand that. I was to see.
it will be on July 30th. This FTC touches on it.
always an opportunity for a trial lawyer to go in. They didn't understand the thing they signed. Yeah, that's why you gotta be quick to settle your differences with your customers.
I do have a question on this dealer board. Are there spots open that we need to fill on the board?
I think that they're in process with the governor's office. I haven't heard back on,
Okay, I didn't know if anyone needs,
some terms are up and other, yeah, but I don't have all the terms. I've heard they're working.
I'm working on it.
They've been working on it for months.
What was that site you said, the wholesale sites, the star wholesale site, one you said something about it, ABC or ACD wholesale or something?
Oh, ACV is a wholesale auction site.
It's called ACD.
ACV,
And what was the other one?
Backlot.
backlot cars.
Backlot. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bates, for your information, the board staff has nothing to do with the
No.
So we found out from
I
everybody.
just didn't know if it was a courtesy to the governor, if we had some people that were interested in different locales. I know they have to go through a process,
Right.
obviously, so that's all. Trying to be a friend.
We're kind of on old business from the board, but association updates, the VADA, VIADA, do you have anything to share with the board on goings on with your organizations?
Mr. Chairman, Ann Hammermella with the Virginia Auto Dealers Association. Nothing to report, just looking forward to the General Assembly session and what it might have to offer. We do have one franchise matter that we're pursuing, but that won't have any impact on the operations of the board.
Alvin, anything additional?
Our Mendes, director. Nothing really much to report, other than I want to remind everyone here, and people watching that, the dealer now can do, transactions for DMV, like, renewals. I just want to remind everyone to start using it. I get calls a lot from DMV, of the performance of my dealers, and it's hard to do it, but maybe we can send more notifications to the dealers, so they can do that in the portal.
Yeah, and as we get into the legislative session, you have my contact information, reach out. I'm sure there's gonna be some bills we're gonna want to discuss, so I'm gonna be very active, so just feel free to get in touch with me and my policy office. Any other old business from the floor? All right, any new business from the floor? All right, our next scheduled meeting will be March 11th, 2024. Welcome to the new year. William, do you have anything on the director's report and decisions in addition to what we discussed?
Yes, I do. Be very brief. Part of my report is number one. I want to make comment about the educational and informational that DMV in conjunction with the Dealer Board on December 7th, 2023. I guess Special Agent Albright, right, rather, part of it. But that particular informational drew approximately 90 people logged in, I guess, to participate. So I would consider it a success. And this is going to be offered every quarter. As you recall, last board meeting, she spoke to the board and came for you and got ideas from you in terms of some of the issues and topics that you want to be presented. And so the first one I think was very successful. And I guess Barbara, do you want to add anything to that?
We just thank everybody for their participation, and if you're a dealer, if you have not had a chance to attend the last one, please look forward to attending the next one, because it's a lot of really good information, and you'll get contact information as well from my team to go along with that.
And again, this is going to be offered supposed to be every quarter, so there'll be another one coming pretty soon. And when it comes up, we'll send out a notice to you, email, or constant contact, sort of communication to let you know the date, time, and give you the address, the URL to connect with. From a staff perspective, my operations manager, Rick Stipe, is retiring effective February 1st. But reality is Rick's last day was in November, first part of November. So the position's been vacant since then. However, since then, we did some realignment within the office. His duties were assigned to other people, mostly to Ann Majors for the most part, and to Michael Bailey. Some of the things that she was doing, given to Michael Bailey to do. And this is for two purposes. Number one, I did not want to be paying two people for the same job over a 3-month period. So we're allowing them to go ahead and retirement. And after February 1st, we'll go ahead and advertise the position. So in the meantime, though, the people whose names I mentioned do have an advantage in the way that they're in the job, doing something different than they were doing before, and have a chance to do some experience. The bottom line here is that things are functioning. We have not missed a beat in terms of things getting done. Some of you in the room may be familiar with the fact that in December, we had a huge $1.2 billion sale take place between Coombs and the Ashbury Group out of South Carolina. And we had a lot of challenges doing that particular transaction, but it went off without a hitch. No issues, no problems whatsoever. Yes, we had the normal anxiety getting started, but things worked out the way they were supposed to work out. So they're up and running, no issues at all. Communicated with Ann a lot about this situation. Commissioner as well, who were in touch with us, along with other people from DMV, so it went off very smooth. So I want to thank Ann, Commissioner, your staff, and my staff for a job well done, because some people were questioning whether or not they would come off the red end. So outstanding job. Matter of fact, I appreciate the Ann's comment. She doesn't worry about it, because we've done it several times before. And so we knew that process work. Thank you, appreciate that. And the people I mentioned before about, the additional duties, those additional duties do come with compensation. One of the things I've always told you guys is I'm going to be transparent with you. I'm not going to ask somebody to do additional work and not compensate them for compensation. They're receiving this additional work. So, and that helps ease the burden a bit for them in the sense that they're getting lectured. But again, I do plan to advertise this position sometime about February, March, permanently. And those people who think I mentioned probably be applying for this position. So we will see them. Now, with that said, that's all I have for my report. But I do want to remind everybody that after this meeting's over with, the transaction recovery committee will meet again for about an hour to discuss some issues that the chairman put on the table back in September. And during that meeting, we will identify what those issues are, and use some documentation to help you with that, and we'll go from there. We may have this wrapped up in one meeting. It might take 3, 4, 5 meetings, but we'll just see what we will do to move forward. But that committee's been charged to bring a recommendation back to the body in terms of what should be done. Okay, so I would say then once this meeting ends, we'll probably meet 10 minutes after this meeting ends. And we won't count an hour unless we're close to resolution. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Childers, and thank you to the transaction committee team for staying after and debating that from our last. With no other business on the table, I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Second by Mr. Sullivan, so we'll stand in adjournment. It's good. I'm still going to be special. That's in the Don't see me talking about, like some guy started talking to one of the junior people and the chair. He's like. So, yeah, I think you're one.
We have nice job. Thank you.
She's right here. We won't get to I think we'll be the information. We'll do. Thank you. No, this is. He sold the car.
She wanted to go live, but now she's stuck with the paper. Just trying to get. I'm saying, like, Lou or over the joke.
Or anything like that.
This is good. I understand. No way. When?
All right, William, let's roll, man. I'll be here at 12:30.
Got 3 minutes. 3 minutes. In the meantime. You think I mean?
Yeah.
You do something else?
For the board meeting. January.
Yeah. Well, thanks. You said it doesn't.
One thing is, we're going to change how we look at it too, because right now on the internet, we allow processing to take the state and local fees to be, you know, disclaimed to an asterisk at the bottom, where now we're gonna have to process the fees up to the price. We're gonna have to look at that from an advertising perspective.
Yeah, because technically our code would be out of.
Right, we have to set a board, right.
We're required. Or we can't, I guess. Yeah, they were required to. When there is more.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look at it. So. And not that I agree with it all. But the one thing it does do is it does raise the bar for everybody that we can't.
Processing the money about one.
Dealers, dealers that sell cars in our state.
What, is this one for?
No, I just was having issues. So
Brick and mortar, brick and mortar is not.
I use my video.
Yeah.
I
mean, you know,
That's inefficient to say the least.
No, cause so I had it all on one, but
Yeah.
created
it was having issues. So
dealers,
hooked this one up.
the ones that street the video weren't open when they were.
Hopefully, what's going on.
So it, in the end of the
I've been
creators
to like two stuff.
I don't certainly agree.
There's a lot on.
I like the
I
price.
say no
of the
later
move.
than
I like the fact.
No,
that
he said it was only gonna be an hour.
I know like nursing dealers.
We'll see.
Their state has not really cracked down on it.
Every
And
time,
it's tough on the DC guy.
yeah, I mean, it is. Is that dealer adding 1995 to their prices when the customer shows up, counting on the fact that the customer drove all the way to Maryland to buy the car, they're gonna do it.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Good luck to you. Hope your dad does well. My dad here is.
Is he on that almost situation? Yeah.
He's all right now, but I can see the signs of it starting.
He's 85. I tell you one thing, my dad, 3 years ago, he was driving around,
Yeah.
checking place out.
How old is he?
He's 89 now. So.
And where are you guys? Are you in Culpeper? Where do you live?
I live in South.
On Stafford.
My dad was living in Annandale.
Yeah,
I used to go there.
I grew up in Annandale.
Well,
Conrad lived 2 houses down from me when I lived in Gainesville.
oh, I was gonna say, he never lived in Annandale.
No, when I lived in Gainesville, he was 2 houses down and our kids were best friends.
What,
I mean-
when you say 2 house down, the one from the.
In Gainesville, that burned down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we had already moved out of there.
Oh, you did, okay.
But I've stayed in touch with him and my son is best friends with Levine. Yeah, he went to Germany with me. We were looking at equipment.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, we go way back. We go,
Great.
good family,
Good family.
good family.
They're like, my brother and my sister. I mean, he is just a true gentleman, I made him through the transaction.
Yeah, yeah.
We've been good friends since then.
Yeah,
First board meeting.
you just gotta make sure you notify.
Oh, yeah, I think that's how
So my brother already took the.
Yeah, right.
I was confused.
They're still saying he has to take it again.
Or the recertification.
He has to go to 2-day class.
Even if they did that.
Yeah, that's what I think the resolution was. To go back to the class and, to pay the fine and then have the satisfactory.
Right, it's inspection here, will be a zero problem.
Yeah, but he's gotta go back to the class.
we have no issues on his own, but.
I just wanted to clarify, yeah, because the stuff that most of them there, that we were with fine.
Yeah. It,
I thought they was gonna do.
was Richard Kim, he was like a 2-day dealer operator.
Oh, hell.
Back again, go back.
Not bad, first. Thank you.
Very nice meeting you.
You bet.
Thank you. I think Ron and I are cut from the same cloth when it comes to this stuff.
You all have a great day. Thank you for all you do.
This. Oh. I have some problem. And what's. This one.
I'm surprised that they showed up on that.
Yeah, seemed like a.
3 months before that, they paid a $3,900 and some, 39.50. Oh, did? Yeah, because his previous dealership, we thought they had been bonded for 3 years. Yeah. And, the bonding company failed to send us the cancellation. So somebody made a claim against his dealership, King George, and the bonding company tried to deny it, but I told them we never got the cancellation notice, which left them on the hook. William said he needs a bond because he never met that 3-year requirement on his first dealership. So I sent him a notice and he was supposed to have it by January 5th, and I haven't received anything, so I have a feeling he's gonna go out of business.
Yeah, that's one we probably, if we want more discussion on that one, that's probably one we need to get the license back from.
But man, he's selling a lot of cars. He did, yeah, but like that one, from speaking with Janet. Look, I don't know. Yeah, some of it, yeah. Wow.
Most people, my brother-in-law. Yeah, thank you for your help today. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that's backwards. And I.
Thank you so much.
We're only missing one, Mr. Page, right?
You see him committed?
No, committed. Okay, but who's missing over there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Rush.
Mr. Rush, John, yeah.
We're done. We're all here, right?
Basically, so you have this on hours, is it all around?
Do we want it on?
Yeah, it's probably me about it. Yeah.
So, I'd like to call the, transaction recovery meeting to order. Our discussion for the meeting is basically was brought up a few meetings ago. Are we charging, or is the cap at $25,000 per claim? Is that enough money to pay out current claims against the fund? That being said, I'll turn it over to you, Wayne, and if I need to kick in somewhere, I will.
So give the committee a little bit more background. Mr. Bates, in a meeting, several meetings ago, asked a question with the price of cars nowadays, today. Is the current $25,000 max fee payout, is that good, considering the price of cars have gone up for lots of years? During the board meeting, there was a little discussion about that, and it came to a conclusion that, matter of fact, we came back at the staff later on and gave the board and committee an update. Our findings were that over the years, the average payout has been $16,000 plus. And while we have a max of 25,000, we don't have that many cases of $25,000. And at that time, the board staff recommended that we the $25,000 max as is right now. But Mr. Bates had further discussion. With that discussion, the board chairman, Mr. Lackey, said, take it back to the committee, discuss and bring it back for recommendation to the committee. So that's what we're doing.
Do we know how many have gone above the 25,000? I know the average is 16, but
that we pay out, yes, but Michael, you want to say that in general?
I don't have the exact numbers on how many we have in years.
is it 10%? Is it?
I would say it's more than 10%.
Okay.
As far as
Anytime Mr. Reed gets involved, they're gonna escalate, but a lot of times he has a lot of pushback on from the other side, like people actually have dealers kind of drag it out and drive this stuff. But I would say maximum is probably less than 50%, but I wouldn't say that.
Really, no, it's not that much.
No, I think I said it's, no, I'm saying the maximum of 25,000 is probably less than 50%.
I've never seen.
I've been on this board for 8 years. I gotta tell you, I think it's probably over $25,000 claims to come to the board. It's probably less than 2 per year.
I would agree.
I would say this though, don't forget, the judgment is more than $25,000.
But the statutory and all those punitive
Right,
don't
right.
involve.
I think what would be helpful, at least in my mind, is not just what total claims, but what are the actual damages of these claims? I mean, are we have an issue again of these exorbitant legal fees that are driving up the recoveries? Well, I understand that. We've taken steps in the past, we rewrote the section a number of, not just probably 15 years ago, that to require them to, file some information with the board. But I don't know if the board, the board has ever really evaluated that. So that I think would be useful information. I know when we went through that process, it may have been, I can't remember, 2010, 2012, something like that. We actually had a breakdown of every single claim, the actual damages, the attorney's fees, and then the total. And I think that's a useful thing to look at too, if we can get that information. Can you list that again? If you get the damages that are awarded and then the attorney's fees and then the total. Because part of the reason that we justified that code change was that you had a $2,000 damages claim and $15,000 of attorney's fees on a default judgment. I mean, these are not, there's not a whole lot of hours that are going into a lot of these cases. So
Should we go back 5 years? We get a 5-year,
I mean, I don't want to make a whole lot of work for somebody, but I don't think that's a lot of work for the claims. Three columns in a spreadsheet can tell you exactly where they are. So, I think that would be useful because if it's the attorney's fees that are driving it up, we might make a different decision or take a different approach than if it's the actual damages that are going above that amount.
Is there a way to regulate that?
Go ahead.
We're looking at
Yeah.
I wanted to clarify what you were saying, like, so distinguishing between the true damage
Correct.
and then attorney's fees,
Correct.
and then any.
Well, maybe it's compensation to the buyer, and then attorney's fees. Because if the damages are I'm not just talking about the money that may have been spent on the car, but if there's rental fees or what's paying to the consumer.
Like like right when you look at the court order,
Yeah.
It's a good right. It
Yeah.
breaks it down before, and then you have the damage, and those damages could be the cost of the vehicle, like you said, the
rental reimbursement.
Yeah, it could be whatever. Right.
Whatever goes, all the other things. Then you have the punitive, then you have the attorney's fee. And I think I think Ann's touched on very important, right? I think that's kind of like a big distinction in the cases, because sometimes there's only $5,000 worth of actual damage. And
Yeah.
$85,000.
You can cap the attorney. Right?
No, you can't.
No, we can't.
Cannot. You cannot.
Well, there is some situations depending on how it happens in circuit court, but attorneys are doing, which is appropriate, like the code spells out what they need to do in circuit court to get their attorney's fees via affidavit of that nature. And if they do that, then the court awards.
So the legislature does not have the authority to cap attorney fees.
Well,
I don't know that they.
The only cap that we have is the amount we're going to pay out of the transaction recovery.
Right.
I guess the other question is, would the legislature ever cap attorneys?
The hell, no,
The
they're all
answer is
third.
no to that. I philosophically just have a broader question. I mean, and I haven't been on this board for long enough that you guys have had these sorts of things, but is this really the purview of this group to create? Isn't this a legislative issue? I mean, I'm just wondering why we're
in discussion.
So it's my recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay.
The chairman's asked for us to come back with, what we've discovered and talk about that makes
Gotcha.
sense.
All right.
It could turn to legislation, yes.
All right.
It would have to be legislation if you talked about increasing the
Right.
amount.
Right.
But I think the legislature would look to you all to come up with those. And keep in mind, the reason that dealers should be concerned is that, and So it's an unlikely circumstance. If the fund can't pay its claims, then every dealer in Virginia is gonna get assessed.
Right.
So I mean, it's your money, it's money coming out of your pockets that is funding this, and, in as much as, you know, you're looking at what you're paying for, are you paying actual consumers, are you paying their lawyers? Don't get me wrong, their lawyers are important in the process because, you know, the consumer can't necessarily make the recovery themselves.
Well,
But
we made it such that they almost need an attorney to bring it, because I understand we're savvy enough to understand what a
Right, exactly.
judgment for fraud is, but average customer that gets hosed at a dealership that's goes out of business doesn't always have the skills to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
I
So,
would be interested to know, William, over like the past 5 years, I've seen the claims go down. And I think that's directly related to, through the association, through our classes, we're teaching people to more and more settle your problems with your customers. Don't just stick them in the eye and send them off to the attorneys. And if it gets settled before it gets to the attorneys, it's a much cheaper avenue. So I'd be interested to know how much, because I think we're making less claims. There's always been $1.3 million to $1.5 million in there, and that hasn't changed any. We haven't lost any from there. You know, there's less dealers. We have the same amount of money.
It's even like the two cases today, 13 grand and 16 grand. And I think we need more, a little bit more background and 5 years and go back and say, how many was it? And how much were they? And Ken has a tremendous point. What is that breakdown? Because we've seen Brother Breeden in here skin people alive, and he knows the system. Now, if you up this to 50 grand, he might have 2 or 3 of his buddies say, come on.
Well, yeah, they know what the limit is.
Well, then they're going to start fishing for a car deal.
Sure. And we're asking for trouble if that, I don't think we've got a problem.
Mr. Breeden is doing what he's supposed to do to help consumers who can't get a straight resolution with the car dealer, not settling the case, you know, or going out of business and hitting the road, those kind of things. He has a place, you know, but we also have our place.
So my question then for the group is, 5 years or 10 years today?
I think 5's enough.
I think 5's enough.
I think
10 would. Well,
It's you
And
5, say that again.
but is five is, a lot of COVID, was that any? Were there? that
Yeah,
more or less issues?
Yeah.
During that time.
It was less claims. But I'm only saying it because he's speaking to the fact of car prices recent. And COVID is when the car prices start really going up.
It's true.
Yeah, but I think 5 years covers it.
Yeah, sometimes,
Yeah.
some good idea what we're
I
looking
think
for.
5 years covers it.
How about the bond?
Just, we'll get to that conversation in a minute. That's another
Okay.
conversation. We'll get to that in a minute. All right, so
5 years of data.
Mhm.
And that data, do we want to know what the damages were and what the attorney fees were split out that way, and all that stuff? Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
anything else you think we need? So, and we were saying that would be a good place for us to start in terms of understanding what we're dealing with.
Well, then we would have more of a vision for what we
Yeah.
make decisions.
well, is there a need?
Yeah.
And today, with 13 and 16 grand, shows me.
Personally, and I'm just gonna throw this out there because I am the chairman, I don't think we have it. I really don't. That's just my opinion, but let's
See what
get
the data
the
says.
numbers to back up that data.
I agree.
So the other issue that was on the thing was the difference in language between the two sections, the bonding section and whatnot with the extended service contracts showing up on one side, other fees and whatnot. I tried to find the whole thing, but that was something we talked about with the.
The language is different.
Service contracts are covered under the transaction.
No, they're not.
Sure.
Not in the code.
Not the code.
It's
It's covered under the bonding
Yeah,
section.
but
The
not-
bond says they have to be covered, but the transportation recovery part doesn't. And so there was a recommendation that we might look to have that corrected in the code if we get to the point where we're gonna go ask for a change in the code, that we have them try to make the language.
Have we had a problem with that, Win?
I think so.
With the service contracts not being,
More so than anything, because that comes off as being a contractual issue versus a fraud issue.
It could be something as simple as I faxed thing to the wrong company or something and then nobody notified.
that's the issue
Yeah.
we've seen is where they collected the money for a
Exactly,
contract,
right.
but it never was forced.
Right.
So there's no rebate money coming back from the contract company.
Or there's
Ain't no service.
When the
money does come back,
if they cancel the contract, it goes to the dealer, because the dealer is the one that pays the service contract, so that's where we also see the issue for pay back the consumer contract.
Really?
No, it's-
They don't make it to the board because we look at so, and the finding in court is that's a contractual situation.
I thought finance contract refunds went back to the finance institution if it was financed.
From what I've seen, it goes back to the dealer, and that's what the consumer said, like they canceled the contract.
I have a little different perspective. I've seen the contract company pay the consumer when they cancel the service contract, even if there is a warranty. in
Right,
place.
well, when it comes to us, we normally hear.
Yeah.
Because they're complaining.
So we have three different versions on the table right now.
But that's with the reinsurance though, right?
And forget about that. Let's just talk about a service contract being in place. That's a whole
Talk
nother.
about who gets the money back.
Well, but the concern that we have is whether the code's consistent so that when somebody files a valid claim and it includes service contract money, do we have the authority to pay that claim? Right?
If it's part of the finding for fraud, yes, but most times we've seen it where it comes back as being a contractual issue, not a fraud issue.
Well, we're gonna get into there, which is why it's gonna end up in court anyway, because contractually, they're gonna say, well, I did this, they're gonna say you didn't do that. It's gonna be they're gonna figure it out in court before it comes to us. So do we want to look at the fact that there is a claim made on a service contract and they win in a court of law? Are we gonna pay that claim against a Virginia dealer? We want to look at that.
Doesn't the court decide that? Yeah, just for my own clarification, these service contracts you're talking about.
Extended warranty stuff.
So hypothetically, down there. I mean, honestly, it's more complex than that too. It's service, it's maintenance, it's gap, it's any contract they enter into.
Yes.
But is it between, I guess, maybe in general, and maybe I'm gonna get more, but are those contracts with the third party entity and the consumer, or is the dealer part of that contract?
Usually a third party.
Most service contracts are third party. A lot of maintenance contracts are with the dealer, and GAP's normally with an insurance type provider. So it gets a little complex, and I don't know if the court gets into that when they look at awarding consumers for damages. Do they get into that side of it as well? Because some of those numbers can be pretty extensive. And so it just depends on how the deal's structured. The ones we've run into trouble with is the guy who sold the car, who sold the contracts, but never put any of them in force. So there is no money to come back.
Wouldn't that be fraud?
That's a criminal act.
Well, I get that, but then.
Oh.
That's not part of the purchase vehicle, right?
Yeah, I mean, you took money and you didn't give them some.
Yeah, but the court could give that back. They could award.
That's my point. I don't know how the court looks at that. I mean, if they make that. Does the court make that part of that judgment, or is because we had one where the consumer was complaining that it was a service contract and it never even got reported. There was no service contract, but they collected the money for it. Right, that's clear. Yeah, right, that's fine. I'm just saying in the performance of the service contract, that might be fraud if there's a third party involved. That's gonna get.
Yeah, all these service contract companies are administered by a third party outside of the deal. So when a claim's made, they make it to the service contract administrator. And they're under a fiduciary duty to pay a valid claims. The dealer, even if the dealer says don't pay it, that person has the fiduciary duty to say insurance company to pay it.
It gets complex.
I just wonder, there are
some large enough dealers that have their own. They hear about reinsurance, but they have their own company.
Well, you've got two possibilities. You could, when you say make the code sections conform, you're assuming you're gonna add service contract to the transaction recovery fund. What about taking service contract off of the bond? That would make it consistent too. And then I don't know, I don't have enough background as to why that language appeared there.
Very specific about the date too, as of.
Micah, how many claims do we have against bonds for service contracts?
I usually don't see what the claims about. I get notified. It's lawsuit against the dealer, and I look, and it's his first 3 years of operation, I just send bond information.
So you don't even look to see if it's whatever's in there?
No, because it's not gonna have any impact on the bond. Dealer gonna pay the bond company. And they kind of pay out, I mean, they have their own, they usually follow our laws, but.
So based on what Ann's saying, there's an inconsistency there for the same $50,000.
Yeah.
Depending on whether it's the first 3 years or after 3 years.
And like, so we don't rely, they added that language, 50.72 for the bond, not for the bond.
I mean, if it's not broke, I don't think you go fix it. We got enough stuff to fix that's real broke. I don't know if that's broken. We haven't seen a big problem.
Well, I agree. I don't know that we need to change anything. I'm just bringing it up because it was in the recommendations from, Commissioner Lackey. He specifically talked about that provision being given.
So right now, we're gonna find out how much it's actually costing us. Right?
How much each claim has been for the past
Yeah.
5 years, what portion, whether it's direct expenses to the consumer, punitive damage, attorneys.
So we need to look at that first.
Right.
And see how
So,
many.
so we're gonna talk about the bond.
Fine.
William,
That's what we were just talking about.
William, let me ask you,
Well, yeah.
I'll throw more stuff on Micah's plate. Is it possible without a lot of work to go and look at the claims against the bond? And those claims, were there service contract claims involved in there?
I don't know if we know that. I don't know the information.
We don't know it. I don't want to send you to do it.
No, we don't, I don't think we have that data.
Okay.
That's not. Yeah, he just.
So there's not a problem.
Not,
If they're not doing it, we're probably gonna have a problem.
Right.
So my question was about the bond could the bond be raised higher than what it is? For dealers for the first 5 years?
Is there a need?
5 years or 3 years?
I know it's 3 years now, but can we
If
get
they
more
make it for 3
coverage?
years, they're probably gonna be okay for 2 more. I think for 6.
Well, there's also language in the bond that they have a claim in the bond set. Right. So if they do anything wrong in the first 3 years, and it's a lawsuit, the bond has to cover, the bond companies have to notify us, and then we let you gotta get a new bond, or you've got to maintain it for the bond.
Is it another 3 years?
It is another 3 years.
So that's covering what you just said.
Okay, that's what I was doing.
And that helps protect the fund from those people like 3.5 years.
I mean, the good news is the fund has, what, 1.5 million in there right now? And it stays there almost all the time. So whatever's working now is adding up all the time. If we change it, we can deplete it, you know, or give them more room to come after more, put it that way.
I think without the data, we could sit here all day long. And,
We've got a data set, right?
but really, when it comes down to it, today, 13,000 and 16,000. I'm fine with that. Because make them whole.
Yeah.
But not, here is 25 grand, because Brother Brady got a $500,000 deal, you know. And bless his heart, he's good at what he does.
I don't have any
But
problem.
we
with
don't
it.
need to attract any more of that.
No.
In
We
my
don't want them
opinion.
getting out of law school, coming up to cardio.
We're too easy a target as it is. So, you know, and I think just to your point, education, and we sit in here and how many transactions, 30 days, does the automobile industry do? And yet we don't really have a tremendous amount of problem. I'm very proud
I am
of the
too.
industry.
The lawyers that we deal with at an association level, I'm telling you, they all are like, hey, you got a problem? If we verify the problem, they just want to settle. They don't want the long, the only time they get all jacked up and start with these big fat lawsuits is when dealers tell them to go blow it out for tailpipe.
Right.
You know, and that becomes a problem. So
Right. And then everybody looks up and here we go.
there you got the lawyers using that education they got.
We don't have much more to discuss.
I mean,
asking William to get this data, right?
just want to make sure, okay.
Right.
So,
People being jealous of you.
so on the first issue, there's data to be, that we'll get for you. And we'll bring it back to the next meeting and we'll go from there. Okay, so, but the second issue dealing with the, I guess, consistency in the law in part 2 and part 3. So there's a difference. One part deals with the bonding company, and the other part doesn't have a bonding, and the current part is on the bonding. Do you guys feel that there's a bonding way this? So that's what make sure.
I
That's
think
the
you
case.
leave it just
That's
the way it
case
is.
out.
Yeah.
So recommendation then for the board when we meet, would be to leave that as is.
You want me to help you justify that?
Oh, don't need justification.
I'm just.
You go, stop. Stop. Really. We don't need anything else. We don't need anything else on the public.
I don't need justification. I'm just presenting what the committee's position is. So
Our position is it's okay the way it is, I think.
Okay.
Somebody else again?
no need, no,
I just
no.
went back and that was the way it was when the board was formed, so I
Yeah.
don't know, and I went back in sort of 1996 or 98.
And it probably hasn't been
It was
discussed.
the original, it was in the original.
Right. It probably hasn't been discussed much over the years.
It's not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, go ahead.
I make a motion.
Can I ask one question?
Who are you?
No.
Uh-oh.
What about the aggregate? So let's say you don't mess with the 100, with the 25,000.
Yeah.
Does the aggregate need to go up? And the only reason I ask that is because there's been 2 claims that I can remember that we had to cut people off because the aggregate
Okay,
was too low.
let's discuss that. We all know what the state of Virginia does when the aggregate runs out, right? They print titles and give them to consumers. That's what happens.
That's true.
Okay, so I think that system in place right now, the way it happens is, if these lenders and these people, these lien holders who get into those situations where they haven't done their due diligence and they get fed with a bad dealer that goes out and sucks the whole thing with them. The state of Virginia prints titles. So I think we're safe at that $100,000 range when the state of Virginia prints titles. Now, if they didn't print titles and the consumer got hurt, that'd be a different story. But yeah.
Well, and not to raise another unrelated issue, but could you save the fund a lot of money by making that happen, even in claims that you're gonna pay? Because there's a lot of times where these lien holders are holding hostage titles that they do not have the legal right to. And in those cases,
State of Virginia will print a title and give it to them.
only if there's a finding that they're legally entitled to it. And if the consumer attorneys are not gonna get paid if they do it that way. So they're coming to the fund, they're taking that money, going to pay off somebody who's holding that title, when they could just as easily have a suit to compel DMV to give that person the title. It's just that the plaintiff's attorney is gonna get paid that way. They're gonna get paid out of the fund, they're not gonna get paid if they just go to DMV for their customer and get to their client to get a title.
Ann mentioned 2 cases that she can remember. I can only remember 2 cases that were above that.
No, I'm not even saying the above that. What I'm saying is that in a lot of these cases where we're paying and we're not even near 100,000, we're not even near 25. The recovery fund is, the recovery fund is business insurance for the floor plan lenders who are not giving those titles because they haven't been paid. That's a problem. It always has.
Yeah, but I don't remember too many lien holders making claims. They're consumers.
No. The consumer makes the claim. The consumer makes the claim because they still owe money on the phone. They take that money and pay somebody off. That person that's holding their title is usually not entitled.
Chris, I'm gonna add confusion.
Okay.
When I was here.
Thanks, man.
When I was
Just
here.
going around the room, Addy.
No.
You're next, bro.
Starting with you, Alex.
That's just a valid point. When I was here as director of vehicle services, in those situations, I would encourage them to use the application and do a process, give them the time. And tell the lien holder, you have a court issue, you take it.
A civil issue, go get your money. Yeah, exactly.
So, but that's what I did when I was here. I'm not saying that's not been done now.
I like that method. Over $100,000, I like that method.
Well,
Never
I
would-
would say under, there's any claim where it applies. We shouldn't,
If I
the
heard,
fund should not be insurance for somebody who's loaning money to a dealer who's not paying off their.
But ain't
Their
it that the
inventory
consumer owes that money to that lien?
No, I'm not talking about that. No, I'm not talking about that anymore. I'm talking about the situation where the consumer has paid the,
Loan in full.
or has paid for the vehicle. I'm talking about the lien holder for the dealer's floor plan. Yeah, so that person's saying, unless you give me the money, I'm not giving you the title. They may still, in this case, the person is gonna have to pay twice. They may have financed their own purchase,
Right. But what are we doing now in that situation?
but nothing to pay them.
I'm not here.
You're paying the lien holder of the original, the floor plan.
Or you're paying the claimant and then they're,
Is not doing anything except paying the claim when it comes in.
Most of the time, these people don't have the cars in because they've been repossessed, they couldn't get titles, whatever, so we're giving them a check. The only issue that I agree with you, but then we become.
We become the cops.
We
yeah.
become the cops and deciding, well, this, so then we're taking the money that the dealer screwed the floor plan company out of and taking it away from the floor plan company, which I don't, is that our role either? Could we even conceivably do that? You're saying we'd be having to find facts at that point, right?
Well, I mean, it would take something more than just the board looking at a claim. It would
Right.
take intervening early on, but I'm just saying that exists out there too, if you're worried about money in the fund.
The association
spending some money
to
that,
direct people to do what he talked about, the title and lieu process more often to the consumer. When the consumer comes and has the complaint.
We're not allowed to make legal representations.
so we're not allowed to give legal advice. to-
Exactly.
Anyway, it's an issue that is, and I'm channeling our dear friend Mike Schrapp, who this would always irritate him that,
Yeah.
you've got a consumer who's entitled to the title and the person holding it is, is basically knowing that the dealer board's gonna pay.
Insurance for the.
Pay,
And we would normally pay that lien holder on the floor plan?
we would, because we wouldn't pay the lien holder. So this is what happened
The floor plan company.
here with the claim saying, I can't get the
Right.
title
Right.
because X floor plan lender, so you pay the consumer, they pay the floor plan lender, they get the title. Why are we insuring the floor plan?
Turn the floor plan, we're taking care of the consumer.
What I'm saying is the board take care of the consumer by just getting them the title. Saving us the money. Anyway,
I think the way it is right now is the way it's been working for all these years. And I think we don't go back and change, because we don't have the manpower to do kind of what we're doing now, much less do all that too.
Right.
So I think we kind of say we pay a claim like, well, that's not fair, but you know what? Most of the times it works out correctly. And if the consumer gets the money and they've got to pay to get the title, if it's a $30,000 car and they got a $10,000 check from us, they still owe $20,000 on that to get the title, correct?
Yeah, I don't know why it would be a,
Most of the time, they don't have a car anymore. Cars don't. Like at that point, cars,
Most of the time, the car's sitting somewhere broken down with a bad motor, or the car's gone.
it's been repossessed and sold and retitled and
So they just.
eight
get
times.
money.
So the customer gets, they gotta pay their judgment back they got from their creditor or whatever, or they get their money back if they pay cash for it, so. Anyway. I tried to make you play. And brought that up. Thanks,
both hands.
both of you.
With the E, without a E.
Yeah.
All right, so right now, as we speak, next board meeting's on March 11th. So we'll have our next meeting on that day to discuss the bondings of the 5 years in terms of what we've been paying out, what's been paid out. The breakdown to show that the damages or whatever the fees are and attorney fees. So you have a spreadsheet showing those different things are, so we can talk to them further. But as far as the other issue, there's no need for legislation. We're fine with the way it is. It's been that way since 1995, 1996.
Yeah, I just went back and looked at the codes.
Okay, so
In there.
we haven't had any issues there, so recommendations that we should leave alone. So we have one issue to discuss then, and so at the next board meeting, you can update them, I could just language, update them, meeting we had today, the issue that we found no problem with, and then what we're gonna do with the second issue.
And can you send me those notes?
No, I got you.
You got it?
It'll be very brief.
I mean, it may be that our minds get changed when we get this data, but I can't imagine.
I think we're gonna find what we think we're gonna find.
Yeah.
We really don't have a problem. All right, so that being said. We're adjourned.
Thomas will be so disappointed.
Had to be Rob to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.